What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with an overview of the Red Paladin build on Midnight Alpha right now, what I've been playing, what I've been looking at, what looks good. So a couple of talents have been implemented in the past week that were in the patch notes but weren't actually currently on the alpha despite tooltips, two of which are the change to Boundless Judgment and the change to Divine Resonance. So now, with those changes, Judgment only generates one holy power, even with Unbound Judgment. And Divine Resonance now empowers your next 3 Judgment casts to deal 100% more damage. Currently, the way that it's working on Midnight Alpha is it's really weird. Like, I don't think it's working as intended, because when you throw one, it deals 300% increased damage, and then the next one deals 200% increased damage, and then the one after that deals 100% increased damage. So I think there's something a little wonky with the coding. However, what I've been experimenting with is a couple different Templar builds, and I've been messing around with both Divine Resonance and Quickened Invocation because Ringing Clarity is back. So if you guys played Shadowlands, you will remember Shadowlands Season 1 Ret Paladin Divine Toll / Ringing Clarity. It was the most RNG OP one-shot that existed during Shadowlands. And it didn't exist for very long, to be fair, because they nerfed it pretty quickly. But basically, back in Shadowlands, there was a conduit that caused your Divine Toll to throw an additional like 2 to 5 judgments when you casted it. So basically what would happen is that like you RNG would throw five judgments at someone in one global that were all like empowered by 100%, and it would do some ridiculous damage. Also, I apologize for the Horseman, the Halloween event thing is just going on in the background here. So basically what happened here is that they're bringing it back in aspects. It's called Divine Exaction, and it is a Templar Choice Node talent. And it's not going to be as strong as original Ringing Clarity, because it's only going to be throwing 2 additional judgments. So basically, when you Divine Toll, your primary target is going to take 3 judgments back to back to back. They are slightly, ever so slightly spaced out. Not by that much. But unfortunately, or fortunately, because this would have been really hard to balance otherwise, it does not, they don't benefit from the Divine Resonance buff now. So if you thought that you could just take Divine Exaction and then, you know, throw Divine Toll and all of a sudden all 3 of those judgments are empowered by Divine Resonance, unfortunately that is not the case. It is all the judgments that are followed up by the Divine Toll, so the ones that you would manually press that are empowered. So I tried that. I thought I was gonna have some Omega one-shot, and it turns out, you know, they don't interact, which in my opinion is probably a good idea, because it seems like they would be very strong together, and there would need to be PvP nerfs regardless. So what I have been doing is instead switching it up with my Templar builds, playing Quickened Invocation for a shorter Divine Toll cooldown, and playing Divine Exaction rather than the Seal of the Templar. Seal of the Templar is a new Templar talent which increases Final Verdict damage by 15%. As Templar, you are not pushing Final Verdict as much as you would as if you were Herald. So I don't actually know the, you know, the min-max. I don't know which one is technically going to be better. But in terms of feel and play, right now Divine Exaction feels really nice because it gives us 3 holy power minimum on our Divine Toll, with the loss of Unbound Judgment included. So that's pretty cool. You can still get 5 holy power from Divine Toll if there are enough targets, but I'm talking just single target, you can still get 3. Outside of that, I've been doing a lot of duels on the PTRs Ret as both Herald and Templar. Both specs feel pretty close. Right now, I believe the Hammer of Light nerfs, PvP nerfs, are still there, despite the, you know, we lost the set bonus, so it has a pretty significant PvP modifier. I think the max crit I'm seeing in PvP combat is like, you know, it's like 6 or 7k ish on average, and it lost a lot on the modifiers. So we don't have Final Reckoning modifier, We don't have the Blessing of Dawn modifier. So I think some things are going to have to change with Hammer of Light's, you know, its base damage. Whether that's getting rid of the PvP modifiers or buffing the basic damage of the ability. Maybe it's going to need PvE buffs as well. I'm not sure. But they also fixed the bugs with Light's Deliverance, so we can find... Well, they fixed one of the bugs. So it finally works. Light's Deliverance works. But the other bug with it, actually, it's live on retail as well. So basically, when you get a Light's Deliverance stack, you have the ability to use Hammer of Light for 20 seconds. However, it's only free for 12 of those seconds, interestingly enough. So for 12 seconds, you can actually activate the ability for free, and then it falls off. You can still use it, but you would have to generate the 5 holy power again. And I'm guessing that's from like a vestigial bug or something from whenever they extended the duration of the Hammer of Light window from 12 to 20 seconds. Hopefully that can get fixed in the alpha. Honestly, that'd be cool if they could fix it on retail too, but I know a lot of dev resources are probably not focused on retail anymore. All in all, there are a couple, you know, I think there are a lot of good changes coming to Ret right now. The Light Within, aka our Apex talents here, it's looking pretty good. They changed it recently to make it so every Art of War procs the cone at the end. The cone is a pretty powerful effect. However, because it's a cone, it triggers like, you know, a millisecond or two, a couple milliseconds after your damage from the Art of War Blade of Justice goes off, which means your character has to be facing the direction of whatever you want to hit. So say you're kiting away your Blade of Justice at a 90-degree angle, your Light Within is not going to hit the primary target. So you have to be mindful of what angle your camera is facing when you push these Art of War Judgment procs, which, in my opinion, it sounds kind of cool. It adds a little bit of skill to the gameplay, but I could also see a downside of it, a con, where, you know, as a Red Paladin, you kite a lot, and then all of a sudden you're not benefiting from that part of the Apex talent, so maybe we don't run it there in certain scenarios. It all depends on how much damage this ability ends up doing in the long run, because, you know, a lot of tuning is going to happen. It looks like it's doing decent damage, not insane damage, but decent damage. And the fact that you get a proc of Art of War on every Wings push makes it a little bit more valuable as well. Blade of Justice outside of our Art of War windows no longer really deals that much damage. You just kind of use it to maintain your Expurgation for the Holy Flames debuff for 5% more holy damage, and then you kind of prioritize your Judgment and Hammer, and not Hammer Wrath, Judgment and Templar Strikes outside of those windows. A lot of the time, as Ret, you're still going to be kiting around. You can see these in these duels, you know, in the duels that I did against Havoc at least. I try to kite them out, and our range damage looks decent. The fact that Hammer Wrath as a talent is not currently functioning on the alpha is a little weird. So like, well, you'll see me toss a couple of Hammer of Wraths, but there's no damage modifier on it. It does the same damage as Judgment, which means also Vengeful Wrath is not working. So I still don't have a good idea of how strong it's going to be or how good it's going to feel, because currently it's just an animation change, and I kind of hope they add that in sooner than later so we can kind of give some feedback on it, because I could see a world where, you know, I'd want to bring the button of Hammer of Wrath back, but literally only make it pressable or usable either during Wings or just as an execute. Either one, but like as a standalone button. Because I've been messing around with classes, and Ret definitely didn't get pruned as hard as some other specializations. But, you know, it does feel a little weird not having Hammer of Wrath. But again, I definitely want to give it a good overview, a good test out, a good trial, I should say, whenever it does start functioning correctly. Speaking of functioning correctly talents, I still can't tell if Templar Strikes is working as intended or not. And what I mean by that is, if you read the tooltip for Templar Strikes, just on Wowhead, MMO Champion, or the Midnight Alpha tooltip, it looks like it's supposed to function as a single press ability double strike, similar to Raging Blow or Storm Strike, where you hit with, like, you know, you have 2 instances of damage. Currently on the alpha, it just works like retail, except the second strike doesn't have an expiration. So I'm wondering if this is something kind of similar to how Unbound Judgment was not working until you know, the following build. So I'm gonna go back in and test whenever the build comes live this week to see if that changes in there, or even if it's an intended change, because the tooltip is not the same as retail. The retail tooltip says Crusader Strike becomes a 2-part combo. You know, you do your Templar Strike, and then after that, it gets replaced by Templar Slash for 5 seconds. That's not what the tooltip says on the alpha. The alpha tooltip says Crusader Strike loses a charge, but now strikes twice. Slash an enemy for, you know, 100% of damage, and then follow it up with a Templar Slash and then it gets followed up by Templar Slash that deals 115% of your damage, or your attack power damage. So it's looking like it's just not yet implemented, because I would love if it functioned as the tooltip was reading on alpha. I think that sounds so cool, and it makes the rotation flow a little bit better, because even on alpha right now in these duels, it still feels like I'm prioritizing Judgment and Blade of Justice a lot of the times over Templar Strikes. Maybe that's muscle memory, but also it's just because, you know, the other abilities, there are higher prioritization, and it feels like, you know, if Templar Strikes became our 2 holy power generator ability, then I would be totally fine with Judgment only giving 1 holy power and Blade of Justice really only giving 1 holy power, unless we took Holy Blade. But then I honestly feel like the Blade of Justice reset talent is better, like where you get 2 of them, because you do want to maintain that expurgation as long as you can, or sometimes you change targets, and now your Divine Storm does not spread the expurgation around. That's another reason I think that the Blade of Justice 2 charges of it is a little bit better than Holy Blades, but we'll see. All in all, I feel like Ret is looking really solid. It had the whole talent trees are really well put together. There are a couple of talents that I would never take, but you know, those talents are most likely seen in PvE context, such as, you know, Tempest of the Lightbringer or Sanctify. I do still think that Sanctify is a little weird as a talent, but it's not like totally out of place, I guess. I'm pretty much making sure that I give all the builds a really good, thorough test. I'm hoping that we can get the max level pre-made build soon, because I don't really like spoiling leveling content going through, because I play a lot of alts, so I always try to actually just, you know, not go to the new zones as much as I can. I've checked out Eversong. Eversong was awesome, but I really want to keep spoiler free for the other stuff. So I'm really here to test the classes, make sure they feel good on the dummy, feel good in PvP, and you know, overall provide some bug feedbacks for spells and ability as well. So right now, you know, the main bugs that I see are just things that are primarily not yet implemented. As far as losing Repentance and losing Searing Glare, I do notice that like it feels bad to lose Searing Glare, but I don't think I'm going to notice the Repentance changes until I'm in Arena. All right, shout out to Arrow for dueling in this video. We've been doing a lot of duels on a bunch of different specs. I really have to go in and put together my Enhancement Shaman video and my Survival Hunter video, because I have the footage for all those. But I just wanted to give an update on Ret and show some footage. All right, thank you all for watching. Drop a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.
That target.